I would like to start tonight's stream with some thoughts from an author, Dr. Irv Yalom, who I've read a number of books over many, many years. Specifically, I want to share some of his thoughts now that we've resolved our stream technical issues. There's a book I read, and I've heard it on a number of occasions. He released in 1980, and it goes into his existential therapy. I just want to share some thoughts before we move on to the night's tutorial. So these are some thoughts from Irv Yalom, Dr. Irv Yalom, the existential psychotherapist, psychiatrist. The belief that life is incomplete without goal fulfillment is not so much a tragic existential fact of life as it is of Western myth, a cultural artifact. The Eastern world never assumes that there is a point to life or that it is a problem to be solved. Instead, life is a mystery to be lived. Life just happens to be, and we just happen to be thrown into it. Life requires no reason. So there's some thoughts from a book I read by Dr. Irv Yalom, the existential psychotherapist. And make out of it what you will. And I'm certainly not implying that everybody in the East lives one way and everybody in the West lives another way. And I'm not suggesting that one way is better than the other way. But from my own travels and my own observations, I think that the world's a changing place to what it was, no doubt, when Irv Yalom had shared those thoughts in that book. But I get that sense that we sometimes can get so hung up on sacrificing today for a better tomorrow rather than being. We become a human doing. We're so focused on our list, our goals, and so on and so forth, and forget that the only moment we really have is now. And with that, it can bring a sense of loss of control. We can feel that we don't have control over what we are, we're doing, or it can bring a sense of status anxiety. We aren't where we are supposedly meant to be now. I'm not implying that goals are a good or a bad thing. I set goals, and I think that they're important. But equally, if not more important than the goal itself, is the destination and the meaning we give ourselves. And particularly when you experience adversity. When you experience adversity, whatever that adversity might be, I really believe it's important to find meaning. That could be losing a job, breaking up a relationship, it could be suffering ill health, and so on and so forth. Digging deep and finding that meaning can help us get a sense of purpose and become more balanced in the way we approach life. And I truly believe getting the balance between sacrificing today for better tomorrow is important, because the only moment we have now. And we sometimes get this sort of status anxiety about what we think we should be and what other people are thinking of us, and we begin to worry. And worrying is a normal thing, by the way. I think it's perfectly normal and natural to worry. The only thing is when we begin to ruminate and get consumed by our worry. And that obviously can lead to maladaptive behavioural patterns. Now, the reason I say that, it's a bit like a scary film. For example, the Blair Witch, I'm not suggesting you go and watch it now, by the way, but years ago there was a film released called the Blair Witch Project. And there are similar films in the way that we're kind of on an edge of suspense. And sort of cutting along the story short, it's one of the type of films that you're left on your edge of suspense. It's this scary psychological thriller, so to speak, where you're waiting for something to happen, something bad to happen. And these guys have got this video camera, and they're going through the forest, and there's some sort of, call it a myth or what you will, and you're sort of waiting and waiting and waiting for something to happen. And it's a bit like life as well, where you're kind of worrying about possibly the inevitable, or perhaps you're worrying about things that you can't control anyway. Or maybe you're worrying about things you can control, yet not looking to solve the issue. And I think it's important that control what you can, let go of what you can't. And where worry is normal, it's always a good idea to consult people who've been in a similar situation to you, or the right professional, the appropriate professional to help you with whatever issue you might have. So you might seek advice of someone who's got experience in business if you're going into business. You might seek advice of a lecturer if you're studying a course at university, or you might not feel so great and you're probably best advised to speak to someone who is appropriately professionally qualified to help you, at least if nothing else, to put your mind at ease and that fear of the unknown. Like I mentioned, the mind plays tricks on us, and I've mentioned before about that brain negativity bias, where I think through evolutionary history we have a bias towards negativity, because human beings we seek to create meaning, but also, as well as meaning, we like to tell stories. And in years gone by, we go back hundreds of thousands of years ago, when people would sort of roam around and explore and look for new areas, they'd go back to the tribe and talk about the dangers rather than the beauty. And I think we've sort of kept that, or inherited that bias, to the point that in this day and age we don't have the same dangers we used to have, obviously, all those years ago. We've still got this sort of world, this chronic world of expectations, a world that there's so much information that's hitting us every second, people telling us how we should and shouldn't live our life, what we should do, got bills to pay. We're adapting to a world that probably doesn't lend itself very well to our primal part of the brain. And for me, some of the things I think, and I'm not making any recommendations by any stretch of the imagination, that are quite useful, is finding meaning, existential meaning, in the sense that, what does this mean? Perhaps I've lost a job before and now I'm in a better one than I was then, or relationship might have broken down and perhaps I'll find someone more compatible, or the time I've got now on my own, I can develop myself. Perhaps the business didn't work out, it might be that I'm going to go into a different area that's more positive for me. So it doesn't have to be meaning in complete adversity or tragedy. Sometimes just let things be as they are. And I remember seeing a quote one time, was by the motivational speaker Tony Robbins, and something along the lines where, be led by your dreams rather than driven by your fears. Now I stand corrected, and the quote was attributed to him, as far as I can remember. I saw it on the internet one time. I think he made a mention of it when I went to a seminar. I've been to a few of these seminars over the years as well, and it makes sense to me. And it's probably not as easy as the quote suggests, where you can just snap one day and be purely focused completely on your dreams and forget about all the things we've got to face in life. But there is a case for sometimes taking a time out and drawing an underline on all the negative things that can happen, and thinking, okay, what could go right and what is right in my life right now? One of the things that doesn't be big delusions of grandeur dreams, just general dreams. It could be a vacation or a new car. It could even be just spending time. It could even, it could even be some of the most important things in life you can't put a price on. Spending time and being in the moment, having a meal with family and loved ones, and listening to music, or maybe going to a concert and things like that, and sort of shifting our focus towards the positive, or the things that we're compelled to move towards, can be quite useful too. And using the fears as a fuel that burns the fire, and rather than sweep it under the carpet, sometimes it's useful to externalize the fears, or even writing them down, journal them, or talk to someone who obviously is appropriate to talk to about what's going through your mind. So externalize it, like throwing bad food out of the fridge, so it doesn't contaminate the other food, so those thoughts don't contaminate the other ones. And that can be a useful thing to do, I think, in that respect. And also drawing a list of things that you're looking forward to do. It's not a process that happens in an instant, I think. I think it's an organic process. You sort of plant the seeds and you sort of start moving towards a brighter future, rather than driven to run away from our fears. And albeit it's natural and normal to have fears, it's natural to be afraid of certain situations in life, but the only thing is, we don't want it to be our dominant thoughts, to be the ones that are running through our mind continuously, because obviously they can grow and manifest themselves. And I think that's a useful thing to do, getting meaning, looking forward to things too. And I think also what's really important too is, and I've mentioned before, is just finding the time to have gratitude and being grateful. And I think that if we can find meaning in our adversity, whatever that adversity might be, if we can find a sense of purpose, if we can work towards our dreams, our vision, our goal, and enjoy the journey as much as the destination, if not more, and find a purpose in life, and we can be grateful with God. It helps us balance things out. And sort of taking time throughout the day amidst all the chaos to bring order. Because we live in an age where there's so much information that's going through our mind at every moment. Taking time to be in nature and enjoy a cup of coffee, if that's your thing, or just enjoying nature and being at one and taking a time out is really important, I think, in the grand scheme of things. And by taking that time out, you then recharge the batteries. It gives you an opportunity to go into whatever you had planned anyway with a stronger sense of energy, life and vitality. And that's what I'd like to share with you. And you know, certainly I never had the privilege to meet Dr. Irv Yalom, although I have read a number of his books and I have spoke to some of the best people in the field of psychotherapy over the years and psychiatry, and they all sort of talk highly about his work, but I certainly recommend some of the books he's wrote. And I think it's like all things, you sort of cherry pick what's right for you and you get what meaning. One person can read the same book and 20 people can read the same book and 50 people can read the same book and get different meaning from that and cherry pick different ideas that are right for them at that time. And that's what I think is with any theory or modality, you take what's right for you. So I just share those thoughts for this evening. Have a fantastic evening with passion. Boom.